Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, June the 15th, 2023, and we are calling the OLCC Commission meeting to order. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Marvin Revolve, and I'm the chair of the organization. The first round of business is that roll call.
Commissioner Curran.
Here.
Commissioner Doherty.
Here.
Commissioner Floyd.
Here.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Here.
Commissioner Miletus.
Here.
Chair Reval.
Here. As you can see, we don't have a really big agenda, but right off the bat, as you can see here, we need to have an approval of the May 18th commission meeting. May I have a motion, please?
Here.
Yes.
I move to approve the May 18th, 2023 commission meeting minutes as written.
Commissioner Curran.
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd.
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus.
Yes.
Chair Reval.
Yes. So you see on the agenda, there is a discussion, a brief discussion related to the surcharge. We accept the governor's request to suspend further consideration of an additional surcharge on spirits as stated in her letter dated June 7th, 2023. We don't need a vote on that. This is just, we're accepting the governor's letter as is. So I want to thank you. In addition to that, I want to thank each of the commissioners and those of you who are listening for the efforts that we've been involved in over the last almost 90 days. I'm going to say thank you to each of you separately later, but right now, you're professional men and women who volunteer many hours to make this happen. We are a regulatory agency. That means we are not in anyone's pocket. Not through intimidation, not through familiarity. As a regulatory agency, we want people who are in our sphere to be successful at all times. We are here to represent the citizens of Oregon, as well as the men and women we work with on a daily basis. So we will always listen, but ultimately, we will regulate what we're doing and how we do it. I want to thank each of you for your efforts and your support. If you have something that you want to add to that, now is the time.
Thank you, Chair, for your leadership. Truly.
Thank you, Chair. So we have the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association update. Jason.
Good morning, channel.
Good morning.
Good
morning. It's a little quieter in here today.
It's scary, isn't it? So one of the things I'm going to ask all of our stakeholders right off the bat is because of the elephant in the room, because we're volunteers. One of the questions I ask, or will be asking is, do you support the controlled state model for the state of Oregon?
Chair Reval, yes, we do. The last time we visited privatization many years ago, our Government Affairs Committee as an association went through our typical process to evaluate the merits of privatization. And it would have been amazing for the commissioners to see that room. When we had that discussion, the Northwest Grocers Association was there as the proponents, and we had some folks from the industry that were there as being against that privatization model. And all of the restaurateur hands in the room went up in opposition, which is, I think, a reflection of the market realities of how the price of liquor has transpired in Washington state and the relationship that our restaurateurs across the river in Portland have with the restaurateurs in Washington state, who sometimes come down to Oregon to get their liquor. So the market rate for liquor in Washington is much higher than it is in Oregon. And so we want all of you to know that we're very impressed with the 3-tier system. We think that it's a system that is working very well. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Chair Reval and members of the commission, my name is Jason Brand. I'm the president and CEO of the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. I'm joined today by our Director of Government Affairs, Greg Astley. And it's our pleasure to come occasionally just to provide an update on Oregon's second largest private sector industry behind healthcare, if we're counting it by the number of paychecks.
Say that again, Jason.
Yeah, second largest private sector industry behind healthcare, if we're counting based on employment, the number of paychecks that we're providing for those or working Oregonians out there that need to make ends meet. So our pleasure to be here. We'll move to the next slide and just talk a little bit more about who we are. So our mission at Orla is to protect, improve, and promote the Oregon hospitality industry. It's a voluntary trade organization for restaurants and lodging operators to join. We have about 2,900 locations in our membership across the state, but we advocate for the entirety of the industry at all levels of government. I think it's important to note within our 2,900 membership base, sometimes there's misperceptions about the types of restaurants and the types of lodging establishments that we represent. The majority of our members are independent restaurant and hotel operators. They typically own 1 or 2 locations in Oregon. If you're a certain size restaurant, you have to join at a national level, and that's a voluntary decision that you would make to join the National Restaurant Association. And with that comes a membership in the state restaurant associations that you're interested in being a part of. But we're all independent organizations. There's 52 state restaurant associations across the country. And if you're like, wait, Jason, you don't know your math, there's only 50 states. So there's actually a state association in DC, and there's also one in Puerto Rico. So 52 of us total. And it's really amazing to have that chemistry with people that do a similar type position, but in a different geographic space. So I'm serving just as the voluntary president of the Council of State Restaurant Associations at the national level. So I have the opportunity to hear a lot from my colleagues doing similar work in other states. And just like all of you do when you attend conferences, just try to harness those best practices and figure out how we can do our jobs better. And just learn from our peers. So it's really a fascinating job. I've been doing it 8 years. Greg's been on our team for 7 years, and we have 14 other full-time staff that work with us. So we're a staff of 16 full-time people. Our board is 23 members strong, and if you take a look at our board list on our website, the vast majority of those are reflective of the comments I just made. Most of them are independent restaurant and hotel owners. So you can take a look at the list and see a lot of people that live and breathe Oregon, not just for professional reasons, but also in their personal lives, which I think is really important to how we, do our work at the association. The sense of authenticity that we have in Oregon is worth protecting. The mom and pop restaurant and lodging operations that make this state churn, they deserve our utmost respect. And like you were saying, Chair, just the importance of, starting every day off, trying to make sure everyone can be as successful as possible, right? And doing their best to make a difference in our state. And we appreciate all of you and the amazing work you've been doing during difficult times. There's a lot of good things that have happened at OLCC, and we're very appreciative as an association for that. There's many examples, but one of my favorite examples during the pandemic was the decision by the staff and by this commission to make it very user-friendly for operators to extend their outdoor dining areas to serve alcohol as needed, but also create agreements with adjacent property owners and to create a streamlined system of efficiency to make that happen as quickly as possible, knowing that their business was on the line. Not just their business, but also the paychecks for the people that they were trying to keep employed. So it was just one example of really thoughtful decision-making on the part of one of our agency partners. Restaurants, every dollar spent table service segment contributes back $1.87 to the state economy. Limited service, a little bit less, but still a little bit of a multiplier effect there, $1.61. Last time I spoke with you, I mentioned that, I really do feel that restaurants are one of the most altruistic, entrepreneurial endeavors that one could take if you're investing in a type of business. I mean, 95 cents of every dollar a customer spends goes back into the food, the people, and the place. 95 cents of every dollar. I mean, what other business enterprise out in other industry sectors can say that? And, right now, we'll talk about this in a later slide, but there's a lot of our mom and pop restaurants that aren't even taking a paycheck right now. And we'll kind of explain the market dynamics of why that's happening. But it's really impressive when you think about that. And the beverage component of our gross sales is so important to our sustainability. The margin on beverages, and not just alcohol, but beverages in general. If we don't have that, we cannot survive on the limitations of gross sales relating to food. It's just too expensive. So a lot of realities coming to fruition relating to kind of those dynamics between food and beverage within restaurants. If you want to handle the lodging one, I've been monologuing for a while.
It's all right. I was just letting you wind down, run out of steam a little bit, so. Yes, thank you for having us today, commissioners. On the lodging side in 2022, the tax receipts that were generated by travel spending were actually up 21.2% compared to 2021, which is good news. That means that more people are coming out. There's been something that's been referred to recently as revenge travel. People were cooped up for so long during the pandemic that they feel like they need to get out and take advantage. And we're certainly starting to see some of that here as well. The total local and state taxes generated by the industry is $643 million. That's our transient lodging tax that's collected at the statewide level at a 1.5% rate. And then municipalities, local jurisdictions collect their own rate.
And then on top of that, the income tax is paid by employees in the industry too.
Right.
So that it totals all of those.
Yeah. So for both restaurants and lodging, jobs in 2023 is 10% of all the employment in the state. So it's 197,000 roughly industry jobs compared to 1.9 million total Oregon jobs. The latest unemployment department report that came out said that our employment rate for April was 4%, for May 3.7. So it's actually dropped a little bit. We added 1,100 jobs for the leisure and hospitality industry, which is good news for us because we've needed those. Staffing shortages have been a constant problem since the pandemic, and we're still seeing it. It's the reason you don't see the dining rooms open as much, or if they are open, they're not fully open. Only a section of them may be open. It's the reason we've seen shorter hours for a lot of restaurants. One of the stories that I like to tell, I don't like to tell it, I guess, but it's very illustrative, is a restaurant over on the coast, specializing in breakfast and lunch. Used to be open 7 days a week, used to be open from 6 a.m. until about 8 o'clock at night. Right after the pandemic, when they were able to reopen, only able to open 5 days a week and only able to stay open from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. So they lost part of their breakfast and they lost their entire dinner hour and 2 days a week. Just could not find the people to staff it. And along with all the other issues that we've seen, inflationary issues, the cost of fuel, labor going up, it's been very difficult even as we've recovered. We've talked about that before as well. So
And unfortunately, Greg, they're not the anomaly, right? I mean,
yes.
that's just the.
It's an industry-wide issue for sure.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of it, and it's very challenging. I mean, the last bullet point, I just wanted to have that be a marker in your mind when you're thinking about the hospitality industry. I mean, our peak was right before the pandemic hit, you know, the top of our season, August of 2019. So you look at where we're at, just a hair under 200,000 jobs versus our all-time high of 224. That basically represents the delta between the jobs that we need to meet demand and the amount of jobs that we actually have that are in place right now. So we're trying to slowly get back up to that peak, and I think it'll take 2 to 3 years to get there.
You're talking about roughly 30,000 short.
Yeah, it's about 25,000 change. Yeah, so we'll go to the next slide here. Greg will walk you through some of the trends a little more specifically relating to restaurants.
So there is some good news. Restaurants are expected to grow about 10% over the next couple of years, so through 2027. The unique restaurant job postings that we're seeing right now is the number that Jason just mentioned, 23,969. So about 24,000 is what we're looking at. You can see in January of 2020, that number that went up. At that point, we were almost $80,000 or 80,000 lost jobs in the state of Oregon. That was the peak of our unemployment disaster for the hospitality industry. Slowly, that number has started to come down. It bumped again in January of 2021. But as you can see now in January of 2023, it's down. What was that number at the bottom there, Jay?
Yeah, that last dot is about 5,000 people from our industry that are unemployed from our industry that are looking for a new opportunity, whether that's with us or with a different sector. So part of our work is how do we match up our members, making those job postings, the 24,000 unique that are out there with the 5,000 folks that are available for work. And so trying to kind of shore up that gap wherever possible. Next slide. So lodging is looking a little bit better at 13% compared to 10% growth for restaurants through 2027. See here, just the sheer size of the supply of lodging creates a different dynamic with the unique job postings. So just over 7,000, but that's still that's still a lot. So you kind of add those together, and that's the broader hospitality industry. To Commissioner Doherty, your comment earlier, if you add those two numbers, we're a little higher than 30,000 unique job postings across both restaurant and lodging. One of the important figures here, so you'll see here, this is a Smith Travel Report comparing April 2023 to April of 2022. And I just want you to look at that first column and the occupancy percentages between 2023 and 2022 across our 7 tourism regions, which is how our friends at Travel Oregon kind of break down the state. Every one of those occupancy numbers for 2023 in April is lower than it was at the same time last year. So it just shows that the recovery is still something that it takes a lot of ongoing work and energy to continue getting our way out of the disruptions from the pandemic era. So 50% is another marker I hope you leave with. 50% occupancy represents, in general, the break-even point for lodging properties. If half of their rooms are full, then they can pay all of their financial obligations and loans. So we're trying to kind of build up the opportunity to create wealth and create opportunities for employees so that they can continue developing their careers within the industry. Next slide. So we'll kind of leave you with these thoughts and we'll rotate through them. And Greg, please chime in at any point. So we are making some gains in overall employment, which is good to see, but we're not where we used to be. So the gap remains, and you saw that on the past slides. I pulled this data from Travel Portland's recent testimony to the Portland City Council. It kind of gives you a feel for what's happening in the city center for our largest metro region. So rooms sold in April 2023 were at 167, and that's more than last year. So the downtown core of Portland did creep up and do better, April over April. But look at the number from 2019, right? So last year we're at 155,000 rooms sold in April. This year, 167,000, but back in April of 2019, we were way up at 215,000. I don't have to tell all of you the ramifications that has given the win-win partnership between lodging and the tax collections from tourists and all the local and state government partners that benefit from those taxes. So every time we're not hitting our marks on occupancy, government feels it directly, and they have less money to do the things that they're prioritizing within their elected offices.
Although things are difficult right now, I do, in a couple of these points, want to raise some optimism. So the largest conference ever to be held in the city of Portland will be coming in a couple of years, the National Education Association. So that's great news. It's great news for our downtown. It's great news for the restaurants. It's great news for the lodging members and the other retailers in the downtown area. That kind of success will breed other success as people continue to see that we are on the recovery track. So that's good news. And
How many
they're
people?
expecting that. 5,000.
They're expecting, I think, I can't really be quoted on this, but I think it was about an $8 million economic impact just from that one conference for the local economy. Somewhere around 8 million.
Yeah.
So yeah, discretionary spending, that's another point of optimism to Greg's point. I mean, we're still seeing pretty strong high level gross sales, but getting that money to the bottom line to sustain the restaurant is the issue. And making sure you have enough employees to meet the demand so that you can control those costs and still bring in the revenue that you're hoping to bring in. So again, the beverage sales are absolutely critical. In point 5, you see that I referenced the owners that out there, the mom and pop restaurants that in many cases aren't taking a paycheck. They're very quiet about that. I mean, there's a there's a level of embarrassment, I think, that comes, which I don't think is something that they should feel, but I hear about that in one-on-one conversations with members of ours. And they don't share that really with anyone else. They would never come here and tell you that. So because of number 5, I think number 4 is becoming more obvious to us. We're hearing more stories of restaurants being sold, reinvented, changing hands. Because if you're an owner of a small business and you're not taking home a paycheck, you start thinking about, all right, well, maybe I need to evaluate this business. Since I'm not getting a paycheck, maybe it's time for a new life chapter. Maybe, I can make some money on everything I've built, the intellectual property I have within the experience of my restaurant, and I'll let someone else take the stab at this with new ideas and a fresh outlook. And who knows where those people that are selling their restaurants are going to end up, whether they stick with us in the industry or go somewhere else. But that point number 4 was something I added to this slide just yesterday from our regional reps that are out in the field, and they're talking to restaurant and lodging operators all the time across the state. So we've definitely seen an uptick, and we're trying to create more partnerships with folks that are our allied members that do restaurant and lodging valuations and help walk small businesses through the process of selling their business to another entrepreneur.
And typically, because there's such a low barrier to entry for opening a restaurant, you don't have to have a culinary degree or a business degree. As long as you have your grandmother's lasagna recipe, you can pretty much open up a storefront, start selling it. There is always interest in opening restaurants or bars. Some people want to open a bar because they like to drink, quite frankly. I mean, they think it would be great to do that, not looking at the business side of things. But there's always people that are willing to come out and open up restaurants. On point number 4, we did mention the fact that we are seeing some questions from some of our members, especially folks that have bought a bar or if they're opening a new bar, with the time it takes for some of those liquor license applications. I will say that the staff at OLCC has been tremendously responsive when it's brought to their attention, and we appreciate that. It's just one of those things that we recognize happens sometimes, and we just want to bring it to your attention. So, yeah,
I mean, we're a third party, partner of yours that has to keep our eyes and ears open as to what's happening out in the field. And so, to Greg's point, the OLCC staff, if I was in their position, I would want to know that information too. So whenever we hear about some frustrations kind of getting ramped up and opening up their business and making sure their license is in place, we always make sure to make a point to pass that on to the staff. And huge thanks to Director Prinz's team and everyone that's working so hard to meet the industry where it lives.
We definitely do want to hear, I love your comments about complimenting us what we did, but we also definitely want to hear what's not working.
Yeah.
That's what the partnership is all about.
Absolutely.
And appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and we appreciate that too. I mean, we talk a lot in our culture at Orla about fierce conversations, right, with respect. So in many cases, when things aren't going well, you just need to make sure that you're having that one-on-one conversation that's built on respect for the other person and work through that issue.
Yeah.
If we do that, I mean, we're all going to be better off in life. Technological advancements. Right now, the thing that really kind of irks me about where we are with technology is it's not scalable yet for our mom and pop businesses. So there's a lot of operational efficiencies in running a restaurant that are available to larger corporate members, corporate restaurant owners that haven't been scaled down to a level of affordability where our independent crowd can really, implement those tools. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see that scalability come to fruition, which will help sustain the independent restaurants and lodging operations across our state, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, and we have seen smaller operations. There's a place in Beaverton, for example, that's using a robot server. Now, it may be more of a novelty at this point, but it certainly is in part in response to increased labor costs. Most of the technological advancements that I think you're going to see starting in some of the smaller operations are going to be around the service model, right? It's going to be ordering at the table with a tablet, paying at the table with a tablet, ordering online and coming in and picking it up, those kinds of things that we're going to see. There is a burger flipping robot, but I don't know that we're going to see that in a smaller operation anytime soon.
There is a pizza making robot.
Yes. Yeah, they're coming up with all kinds of.
You would be an expert on this. So another one, Old Spaghetti Factory, I think is probably going to buy a couple Servies. So this is a robot that saves the labor time between the front and the back of the house and taking dishes back to teams that are washing in the back. versus a runner having to go between those two locations. So I think that technology right now, it's relatively affordable for that type of product, like $60 a month kind of a thing to have a survey kind of create that efficiency. So that's an example, just like Greg's, of things that we think are coming to Oregon soon. So the last point I'll make is just the trends are in our favor if we can figure out a way to efficiently manage our costs, but we're definitely not out of the woods yet as an industry. We have probably a 2 to 3 year journey of pain points ahead, and then we'll see where we're at that point. But the future, I think, is really bright because of some of the generational trends we're seeing. I mean, younger generations, as they grow in their ability to build net worth, are going to spend more of their discretionary dollars on experiences rather than material possessions. One of the interesting trends during like Christmas and holiday time is the idea of not giving friends and family a bunch of gifts, but instead pooling that money and going on a trip. So those are the types of things I think we're going to start seeing more of. And we're very well positioned as an industry to provide, exceptional top tier experiences for people in Oregon. And Greg wanted to mention, the James Beard best restaurant in the nation here in Oregon, which is so awesome.
Yeah, Gregory Gourdet, a local chef, obviously here in Oregon, named the James Beard Foundation 2022 Restaurant of the Year. We had another chef that was recognized with the James Beard Award as well. So the future is bright. Oregon is still a foodie destination. We are still in that recovery though. And so I think that it's going to take a little bit of time, but we are coming back. We're making our way back. And to Jason's point about the place to be as far as restaurants are concerned, they're still the cornerstones of our community. It's still the place you want to go to celebrate that Little League championship. It's still the place you want to go to have an anniversary or a birthday celebration, right? Pop the question over a nice dinner at a nice restaurant. So all of that, I think, is woven into the fabric of what we provide to our communities.
And the last slide is just our contact information. I think you all know how to get a hold of us, but our cell phones and email addresses are on here if we can be of assistance at any time. And being 7 and 8 years in our jobs, we've been so fortunate to meet so many different types of entrepreneurs in our industry, operating so many different types of business models. There's really innovation around every corner, and it's really fun to be a part of. So thanks for your time today.
I want to comment on something about Portland being a foodie, which city, it just really is. And I love chefs and I love cooking, and been a long time since I've done a commercial kitchen, but saw this chef and I wanted to chat with him. So he was from Missouri, and I said, well, what do you do in Portland? Because if you're in my business, you have to go through Portland. And that's just.
That's awesome. Yeah,
That's great. So I hope we keep that alive. I think we are. Very well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your efforts on that behalf.
You're welcome.
Sure.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you as well, and just, let you know, for your industry. One of our KPMs, our key performance measures, so try not to speak in government acronyms for a moment, is customer service. It's what the legislature is going to look at, just like the commission's going to look at. As Commissioner Doherty said, like, how are we doing? We need to know. And Danica Foster's, in charge of licensing, and she's already written me a white paper of exactly what you said. We've come through a time where, as you said, the main thing we could do as the OLCC is be flexible and try to figure out how do you adapt to a pandemic. And now we're coming through this place where there's going to be more folks, asking for licenses. And we know it's an issue that could affect our key performance measure of customer service if we are taking too much time. So I just wanted to let you know, it's a perfect time to bring that up. It's going to align right to our key performance measure. And it's right where we need to be as we start to think, July 1 is a new biennium for us. And we have to do that strategic planning of how are we going to make sure we're hitting the targets that our commission and our legislative folks want us to focus on. So I just wanted to say that. And then as a little factoid about me, I forgot that, as I'm getting to know the commission, my first job was at Dairy Queen in Grants Pass. And I will say, if there was a robot making the burgers, it might have been safer. I think I destroyed a few pieces of expensive equipment learning my trade there, but
You also need the employee to put a couple extra toppings in that balloon.
yeah, exactly.
If you have a robot, you're never gonna get left.
The swirl, that was, but it's a changing industry. It's always gonna be based on people, but it's always gonna have to be regulated well and done in a timely manner. And so I just appreciated both y'all's comments and we're monitoring the same thing, and we will focus our plan on making sure that we're adapting to this good news. This is a good thing that people are seeking restaurant licenses.
Questions or comments?
Right? So nice to see you again.
You too.
So, you provided really good, future projections. But the one thing I really haven't, heard was the safety and livability, walkability. How do you sustain that? Because anecdotally, I hear people commenting on the condition of Portland proper in particular. So that has to have an effect, a negative impact on that. Are you partnering with other entities to address that so that you can retain these big considerations, these big entities, communities are coming in to use Portland as a base?
Yeah, Chair Revolt, Commissioner Jeff Porter, absolutely, we are. We're in constant communication with the city and the county, metro. We actually have a government affairs coordinator who is primarily focused on the Portland area. So we have had discussions with them about the public safety issues, about the walkability. We know it's not a problem that we can solve alone as an industry. Obviously, we all have to work together, but we are pushing for results-oriented solutions. There need to be some changes to how downtown Portland in particular is being viewed. Obviously, depending on who you talk to, some people go downtown and don't see the issues that everybody else does. The national news tends to maybe blow things out of proportion a little bit. At the same time, I think there are very legitimate concerns about some of the behavior of some of our citizens downtown who are houseless, who are drug addicted, who have mental health issues. It certainly is a consideration that we don't have as many people downtown anymore. With remote work, it's been very difficult for restaurants downtown because they don't have the foot traffic. And so, when you don't have the lunch hour and when you don't have the after work crowd necessarily, it takes a big bite out of your day. But yes, we are absolutely working with other partners and other organizations to make sure that we can do everything we can to get Portland back to a place where people do feel comfortable, they feel safe, and they want to come downtown. And we are seeing some success with some of the events that have been held recently. A lot more people have come downtown for some of the things like the Rose Festival and Cinco de Mayo, and that has absolutely helped. Now, you can't have a big event like that every day of the week, but we need to do those things as well to bring people downtown, and that will hopefully help spur the others.
Commissioners?
Well, thanks for everything. Been through a lot together, so it's always appreciative of the partnership and keep chugging along.
And
Thank you,
your
Jen.
advocacy. Thank you for your continued advocacy of this industry. Has everybody heard how big this industry is, collectively how big we are,
Yeah.
how impactful we are to the state of Oregon. So thank you for your continued work and your continued advocacy, fellows. Thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure. The silver lining of COVID, right? We lost a piece of our souls when we didn't have those hospitality experiences. And so I think if anything, our common life experience, not just here, but across the world, is the part of our lives that hospitality fills. And what happens when you lose that? Most of our members describe being in our business as bringing joy and fulfillment to the lives of others. That's why they do it.
Yeah, I had a conversation with, you guys know Bill McCormick, who had all those restaurants, and I said, why are you doing this? Why'd you get into it? He says, I love being a host. And it's right on to what just lights him up to be a host. So I see that coming from you guys, and appreciate your partnership in this very much so.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now going to move forward with the building update.
morning.
Good morning. Where are we?
Chair of all commissioners, Director Prinz, for the record, Jeff Samuels, Administrative Services Division Director. We are progressing, which is a good thing. And I wanted to give you an update about three things. It'll be short this morning, save you some time. We did go, Director Prinz came over and our DAS partners, Shannon Ryan and Jeremy Miller, Robert Underwood came and we toured Columbia Distributing, so our friendly neighbor in Canby. And I think that was a really good opportunity for Director Prinz and DAS to see a building similar to ours and then actually see our property, you know, and so we talked about how our layout could be on our property. So I think those are all really good things. So a little update on that. As far as the construction manager's general contractor contract, I've been telling you, we've been in negotiations, but I am happy to say we're not finished. We are still in negotiations, but the contractor provided their part of the contract and DAS and DOJ reviewed that, provided some comments back to the contractor who has just reviewed it and provided us that document back yesterday afternoon. So we're reviewing it this morning. It's just part of the negotiations, but we are getting hopefully closer. So that's a good thing. And then finally, we're diligently working. We talked about space planning and making sure particularly our headquarters was sized the right way. And we're currently looking at a few things on that so that we can get that right sized headquarter building, but actively working on that. That's really all I have for you this morning.
Well, thank you. One of the things that's important that we learned in our visit with NAVCA is that there are other states who have just completed projects of this size. What was useful for the state of Oregon and to have DAS representation there was that the truth of the matter is there's nobody here that knows how to build a $200 million building. You know, I've been referred to as MacGyver backwards. So can't fix anything, don't know what a hammer really looks like, don't want to. So to have DAS at that operation and to speak with people from Virginia and Iowa and to tell us what pitfalls that we're going to see was very important. You know, I think one of the best things that came from that meeting is do not buy cheap pallets to move liquor on. They will break and fall off shelves. They will drop on your machine or your robot and destroy your robot at $80,000. So that's important. The industry is also very interested in how we proceed. They have goals and objectives. They need for us to understand that that's simply business. We also have goals and objectives. They need to understand that. So am I talking about coding? Yeah. And what we can and can't do. So it's important that each of you know that this is an ongoing situation. And we're going to meet our deadlines. Meet our deadlines, right, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
Commissioners.
Sure, I wanted to follow just, I got to go out for the first time on June 7th. I know you all have been there before. It was incredibly helpful. And a reminder of that teamwork makes the dream work. I just want to give a shout out to our staff at OLCC, but you know, Shannon's here for DOJ today and DAS, Shannon Ryan is not here today, but we have been it's been so important in this time when we've lost some of our executive directors and executive team at OLCC, just reiterated the need to make sure we're reaching out to DOJ and reaching out to DAS. And Jeff has done a phenomenal job of doing that and being open to that. And so Shannon Ryan, so DOJ is working diligently to make sure the contract is tight. You know, no one loves lawyers, but you need the lawyers. Some people love lawyers. It's a very discriminating group of people. So the lawyers are working on the contract from both sides. And and Miss Ryan has been diligent, when she came back from the conference, she's reaching out to those other states and asking them those questions, making sure she's informed as our partner on this build. And so I want to thank our partners on that and thank, specifically, our DOJ team and our DAS team. And that's how we're doing this, and moving this forward and keeping this on. And then it was great to meet our owner's rep, to talk about the details of things like what happens first, what about this frontage road? How do we keep our, the trucks that are going to be coming in? How do we do that in a way that's respectful for the community? What does the city want us to do? What did the neighbor association have on their mind? So all of those things are so key, and so we're moving forward with that. And I want to thank our team throughout state government that's helping us with that.
Commissioners?
Just one comment, buy those pallets early, order them now.
We're a little fixated on pallets.
To follow on that, when it's easy to say, Jeff, I forget how high the roof is planned to be, either 28 or 36 feet. 36 feet. That's really high. You don't realize that until you see how high that is and how much vertical space there's going to be and how much planning has to go into how do you safely use that vertical space. And also it was very helpful for me, in one of the schematic designs, it talks about the parcel is a large parcel. I think it's almost 34 acres. And so, you don't have a sense of when they say, well, for growth, you just punch out the wall. And I'm like, show me what that means. And that was really helpful to see visually for someone like me. Oh, I see what that means, so that we have space. We're going to put that footprint of that warehouse in a place where, it can be for the next 30 years. And if we did have that growth, you could push out, and you can see how in the Columbia building where you can see that it's built so that you could, structurally do that. So for me, it was just incredibly helpful to visualize it. And I know it'll be helpful as we move forward to have our staff there to kind of see it. There's nothing like seeing it to help you visualize yourself being a part of that move. So thank you.
And then if I could follow up on that, Commission, was also just a shout out to our Cumming Group, which is our owner's rep. And then also our architect, LRS, was there on scene to provide those type of details and help us walk through what we saw at Columbia, our neighbor, but also what we're looking at to put into our own building, like these punch outs that Director Prince talked about, so that we could expand easily at less of a cost. So anyways, they've been very helpful to us.
Commissioners?
When it says a lot that they're right across, I mean, that was the thing, just the proximity and that site, it was tough to get there, but it's a great site. I mean, that's doing the liquor distribution out there is the optimal location. So it's good we got it, because there ain't anything left.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Legislative update. Is there anything to talk about? No one's there.
I was gonna say.
They're working.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chair Wall, commissioners, good morning. Director Reyes. It's been a interesting last couple of weeks. They're still negotiating. So there are a number of things to report, and I'll start with some good and some bad and just give a little bit of recap on all our bills that were prioritized by the governor, and a number of bills that are not prioritized by the governor on behalf of OLCC, but we've worked with our stakeholders. So to start with, we had on the alcohol side, we have House Bill 2013. 2013 is our lawsuit bill, I keep calling it, but it's a bill to address an issue around Commerce Clause. And that actually moved forward in the Legislative Assembly on the House side. So it's going over to the Senate for a vote, but until they come back, there's no vote on that bill. The next bill is 3308, and that had a resounding support yesterday on the floor of the House, and that bill will be moving forward. Another bill that moved forward as well is House Bill 3610, and as you know, 3610 is a task force bill. It's going to have an impact on us in that we are overseeing that bill. A number of advocates came together and legislators supported that in terms of having a discussion around alcohol prevention and recovery and funding from beer and wine. So that bill moved forward as well. On the marijuana side, it hasn't been so great. We had one bill that did not move forward. It's still in Ways and Means, potentially could still move forward, but it looks like most of the committees have kind of shut down for the session. It's House Bill 3049, and that has to do with hemp registration and hemp product registration. So that is still stuck in committee. The
Rosie, is that in conjunction with the Oregon Agriculture Department involved in that, since they do a lot of that control?
They're not directly involved in that particular bill. The one that did move forward and it is attached to our budget bill is House Bill 2931. And that is the one that we're involved with the Department of Agriculture for the reference lab. So both the reference lab bill and the House Bill 3308 having to do with alcohol delivery or regulation around alcohol delivery, those two bills are in our budget bill is around the government. Prioritize funding for those.
3 people, including a child, were shot and killed in a domestic violence incident in Orlando, Florida.
We say the suspect in the domestic violence incident died.
Those two bills would like you be passing on through the budget as well. So those two are prioritized. And also 2931, because of the critical need for that bill, that will be passing on as well. So we have a number of other bills that were part of our task force on marijuana. Those bills are actually signed by the governor, House Bill 326. And I'm going over numbers now. I'll provide greater detail. I'm going through them really fast right now. But that bill looked at the illicit marijuana in Southern Oregon and addressing water theft, ensuring that landowners are going to be held responsible for cleaning up. And if not, law enforcement can go in and clean up and hold the property, put a lien on the property to clean up any sort of illicit marijuana grows. So those bills have passed on and the governor signed a couple of bills, but for the most part, we're still waiting for the priority bills to move through the Senate. Getting information from some of our stakeholders and partners that they are still in discussion. They're supposed to have floor this morning, but it was canceled, might come on at 10:30 today. So that's where we are. And I am open to any questions.
Good, great work.
Yes, we're pretty excited.
Great.
Yeah, I just want to double down on a couple of things that Rosie hit. So just so you know, we're very hopeful. We saw that the Senate had floor scheduled for 9 a.m. this morning. So we were like, that's a good sign. So we're hopeful that we'll come together and do that. We also are planning, as I think I mentioned last session, but I can't remember. If we need to, we do have a continuing resolution bill that will allow us to continue as an agency on our, basically it's our quarterly budget for the last quarter of this biennium would move us forward till September 15th. And that's kind of the contingency planning of both. If we have the budgets, if we don't. So I'm thankful for the governor and the legislature to have already signed that into law, and they've been helping us plan around that if that occurs. And then I just wanted to 3308 is the alcohol delivery regulation. So this is the regulation, third party delivers alcohol delivered to the door. That was up yesterday in the House. And so, yes, they are still working. It is still active in the Capitol, and they're having for example, House floor votes and just incredibly, I think it was significant. I asked Adam to look that one up when, as Rosie was coming in, I think it was 56 aye votes out of the 60. And the two there were no votes. They were just excused from business that day. So the reason I raised that is, let's hope that we have the Senate come back and do floor votes. I think what we'll want to show is we have budget-related bipartisan bills like alcohol regulation at the door that we hope, and we're saying these are our priorities. They relate to our budget and they have this kind of support. So I want to thank, thank the legislature that's been working with us. Thank Rosie, all the team that's worked on these, our partners. And, we want to have ourselves set up for success, no matter what happens. And that's just significant to me that bill had that kind of vote yesterday. I guess it was yesterday.
Yes, it was yesterday. And for the record, Director Prince, Chair Revolt, members, pretty much all our bills had roughly 57 to 58. So pretty unanimous.
Can we credit that to all of your efforts of
Extraordinary collaborative effort by stakeholders and lots of conversations and legislators who saw the value in each of these pieces of legislation, that it is about moving Oregon forward and striking that balance between what we can do as an agency and what we can do for Oregonians. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank you. Brian. And as I'm looking at my notes is that as we take actions, do you think a name like Revolve is hard to spell and pronounce?
Yes.
So we're gonna need some help with
I will do my best.
pronunciations as we move forward.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Chair Revolt, Commissioners, Director Krenz, for the record, I'm Brian Aker with Retail Services, filling in for our Director, Paul Rosenau. I'm here today to present the following business. We have 3 temporary to permanent appointments, one of which is a spouse child. And 2 of the presenters will be remote. Up first, we have store 1024 Toledo. On May 22nd, 2023, an interview committee met to consider qualifications and interview the applicants for store 1024. This vacancy occurs as the current agent's temporary agreement is expiring. The committee interviewed 2 applicants. The score reflects the qualifications for responses. We ended up with 1 finalist due to the scoring. This will help. Gurpreet Upal, he goes by Gary, has been acting as temporary agent for the Toledo store since March of 2022. Gary was appointed temporary agent when Mike Knight, the previous agent, made the decision to retire. During the time that Gary's been in charge of the store, for the past 12 months, he's demonstrated successfully to operate the liquor store. Under his supervision, he has seen a 39% growth and added 269,000 in volume during that 12-month period. So with that, I'll bring up Gary.
Good morning, guys.
State your name.
My name is Gurpreet Uppal, but I go by Gary. A little bit easier.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. So we'll start off with store 1024 in Toledo, Oregon. Next slide, please. I purchased my first store in 2010, and that was in Lincoln City, Oregon. I moved from Vancouver, BC to pursue my dreams of being an entrepreneur. I've grown my businesses. I have over 12 and 13 years. I've been in the retail, convenience store, gas station, and I've always wanted a liquor store. That was my goal, and I finally got there. I have a hands-on approach, and we grow each business with my family. Without them, I'm nothing. We strive ourselves on excellent customer service and being involved in the community. We're always looking for innovative ways to increase future sales, and my dream was always to have a liquor store.
Next slide, please. We purchased Mike's Mercantile in early 2022, and that's a picture of what it looked like before we took it over. It's approximately 5,000 square feet. It has 13 parking stalls. It's about 2 miles from the Georgia Pacific paper mill, which employs, I think, over 1,200 employees. And it's been in this location since 1983. Those are our current hours. There is a mistake there. Oh, it got fixed.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point it out, but those are our hours. We maximize the liquor store and we cater to everyone. Next slide, please. These are the capital improvements we did. We added a 23-door walk-in cooler. 13 of those doors are beer, and then 10 of the doors is CSD. We're working on our deli right now. It's almost up and going, but we've added, it was about $45,000 for that upgrade. Also, all brand new gondola shelving. We went to black gondola shelving. I think it appeals better. And then we added LVT plank flooring. We remodeled the bathrooms. We put in a bathroom for the customers to use. I think that's a nice addition. The building had a lot of dry rot. We fixed all that, added new counters, and then we upgraded the electrical. We painted the inside and the outside and upgraded everything to LED lighting. So we put in about $253,000 in capital into this building to make it up to par. These are some before and after pictures. You guys can see the difference. It's called Letterbuck Liquor. So it's Western themed. Next door, there's a Do It Best hardware store that drives in traffic also. And it's a one-stop shop. We got deli, we got a convenience store, and lastly, we got the liquor store. This is what, to the left, that's what it looked like before. It was a Mike's Mercantile. He had a lot of stuff and it was nasty in there. First thing we did was rip out the carpet and then put in the walk-in cooler. And then a lot of the work, my uncle's back there, Uncle Jesse, we did a lot of the work ourselves. He's my partner on this store. Some more before and after pictures. As you can see, big improvements. That was the liquor side. The liquor was when you came into the store, it was right in the right-hand side, but we moved the liquor all the way into the back and separated it from the convenience store side of it. Just some more before and after pictures, just big improvements. And we've seen with the numbers and the sales, they continue to grow. Like we grew 39.4% to be exact our first year. And I think this year we'll hit at least 1.2 million to 1.3 million in sales. So I'm really excited about that. We have 21 security cameras. We try to prevent the theft, but you know, it's hard, but we do a good job. My team does a good job. We separated the liquors into the back. You can see that through those barn doors, and we have all our signage stating no minors allowed back there. Just some more pictures of the liquor side of it. And then we added this innovative open air cooler to have the ready to drink. That's the new trend right now. It's booming. So we have ready to drink right by the counter, and it's been helpful. People have been picking up the beverages, RTDs, grabbing them last minute, and that's helped our sales grow also. A little bit of facts. We've increased liquor sales 39% since we took over. We've improved our delivery service, going out and getting restaurant business because the other liquor store that was in the area, they didn't deliver, but we deliver. I personally deliver every Friday. We've got more stores and restaurants, Toledo, Lincoln City, Newport, Rose Lodge. We deliver all the way there, and I'm reliable. I show my face. I'm involved in the business, day-to-day business, and that's helped a lot. Next slide. This is the hot case we're adding. We've got it wired in. We're just waiting for the fire marshal to come in and sign off on it. So that will drive more foot traffic into the store. Next slide, please. We're adding skippers, seafood and chowder. I got a 40-mile radius that I'll be the only person that has skippers, and that's going to drive more foot traffic into the convenience store, liquor store. And then we're adding Chinese food also in the city of Toledo. good combination, I think, because City of Toledo has nothing. There's no only Dairy Queen for the whole town. Other than that, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Any questions?
Wonderful.
Commissioners?
So my daughter did her engineering externship there a few years back, Toledo. I'd never been.
Yeah, there's not much.
And now you're giving me a reason to go and visit.
Yeah, if you guys are in the area, come swing by and see the store, please. I'd love that.
I may, where did you get your shelving? Because everybody would touch
Yeah,
it.
right.
There was a 6-month wait on it.
Okay.
We had to wait 6 months to get it. And Harbor Wholesale, they got us hooked up with a company out of Vancouver, Washington, but we waited 6 months for it.
I'm not surprised.
Yes.
A lot of people struggling to get their stores open and running with.
Yeah, and a big steel surcharge. We had to pay 28% surcharge on steel. Yeah.
So can I ask a question, Chair?
Yes.
This is just curious because you mentioned it so many times. I'm just wondering, curious, why was this your dream?
Because I've always been an entrepreneur growing up. My mom owned a dry cleaning business. My dad owned a construction business. When I got into the beverage industry, my first convenience store, I'm like, one day I'm going to have a liquor store. One day I'm going to have a liquor store. I would always tell my friends that too. And then when that opportunity came up to buy Mike's Mercantile, I was there that night. But the beer rep told me that it went on sale. He's thinking about selling. I drove there that night and got the deal done. So I was just very passionate. I'm very passionate about this. And I continue, yeah, I'm very involved and I just want to grow the business.
So you were the kid that said, I want to be a doctor.
No, I was not that kid. I wanted to be an entrepreneur from day one. Yeah.
I went to school with you.
Commissioners? Congratulations, by the way. Bumping this up 40% in 1 year is an incredible accomplishment.
Thank you.
One unrelated question, what brought you to this area from Vancouver? Was it Vancouver, BC?
BC, yeah. My uncle had, Uncle Jesse's right there. Yeah, he had a store in Lincoln City that wasn't doing very good. And that was my first opportunity. I bought my share in there and it wasn't a profitable store, but I took that store over. It was either that or Albany. And I'm like, the beach, I'll go there. And when I got there, it was raining sideways. I'm like, where did I end up? And yeah, but the moral of the story is I grew that store first year. I think I grew it 40% also. And then I haven't looked back. Just continue to grow. Yeah, but when you're involved in the business, you can grow the business.
Yeah.
You got to be there and show your face.
Of course.
Gary, you are the epitome of exactly who we're looking for. Right. These stores. You are the epitome. I appreciate your enthusiasm, appreciate your positive energy, your ambition, your motivation. Kudos to just nailing you rocked your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job, good job.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion?
Chair,
Yes.
I move to appoint Gurpreet Upal as the permanent agent at store 1024 Toledo effective July 1st, 2023.
Laura?
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Chair Revolt.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations. Well done.
Brian?
Chair Revolt, Commissioners, Director Prinz. Up next, we have store 1080 Jacksonville. This vacancy occurs as the current agent's temporary agreement is expiring. On May 31st, an interview committee met to consider this qualification, interview the applicants for store 1080. The committee interviewed one applicant. The store reflects the qualifications and responses to our questions. And the finalist is Quran Properties LLC. And I believe we have the representative, Amrik Bagri, who goes by Rick. It'll be available to answer any questions.
He is on.
Rick's been a temporary agent since November of 2022. He bought the building convenience store.
How did it become available originally?
I believe he just bought the business. It's a non-exclusive.
Okay, gotcha.
How long has he been operating the temporary?
Since November of 2022. Store does about 475,000 in volume.
Brian, we don't see him back in the list. He was here and he's not back on the list.
We'll come back.
I know Dave Owens, his district manager, texted me that they were both online. So yeah, we can move forward.
Why don't we do that?
The next is the temporary to permanent spouse child appointment. And this opening came because of Chuck Horton, who was the liquor agent since February of 2008. Chuck resigned due to health reasons, and Retail Services is requesting a permanent replacement for him by appointing his wife, who is Joanna Kubiak Horton, who has worked with her husband alongside for about the last 7 years. Based on the application process, experience in the store, and the scoring committee scores, the staff considers Joanna to be qualified for appointment as a permanent agent of store 1217. And she should also be, she's virtual.
There she is.
There she is. And I believe she goes by Asia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So my name is Joanna, but everybody call me Asha. It's like a shortcut. I'm from Poland, so it's like Bill and Williams or Bill and Will in the United States.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
So I have been working in the store for over 7 years with my husband. We moved to new location. Before we moved, my husband got sick from COVID and he never really recovered. So I moved the store to new location last year, which was quite a great location. So there was a lot of updates to the store, walk-in coolers, flooring, painting, pretty much everything is new at the store. We pretty much growing every month in this location. I'm still working on the updates and improving the store because I think that's never ending and improvement is important. But I really like working here. It's my life. Then it's hard to top this interview after seeing the previous person because he was so spectacular and so prepared. I don't know what to say now. I was not this prepared. But I think we're doing amazing in this location. I touch all the aspects of the store and I work on all the aspects of the store, from deposits and running the business for like close to 8 years now, and on my own for close to a year now.
Well, we appreciate all you do, and believe me, just because he's 8 years old and he's gonna have a liquor store at 8, that's okay. You're fine.
That's right, Asha. Asha, Yap Shemash. Yap Shemash. No.
Oh, wow. Mam się dobrze.
That's it.
Wow.
Any questions?
Uh,
May I have a motion, please?
No.
Chair, I move to appoint Joanna Kubiak as the permanent agent at store 1217 Medford East, effective July 1st, 2023.
Laura?
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter, Commissioner Melidas,
Yes.
Chair Raval.
Yes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Laura, do we see?
Dave Owen said that he thinks he's back in, but he was having issues with his microphone. Oh, I don't see him in the list. Do you see him in the list? Okay, I don't see him.
Of course.
Do you want Dave Owen?
Yeah, maybe we can come back and. Yeah.
Can we call him and put it on speakerphone?
Yeah, let me just on the phone.
That would.
Do you have his contact information?
I am looking.
Dave says he's helping to get back in.
Dave's helping him get back.
Okay.
So we could keep an eye on it if you want, and when next item, it's up to you.
Why don't we, jump the broom and we'll bring up rules for while we're trying to put that together. How's that?
Thank you.
Great, I wanna, let's do that. So we'll get Nicole here and Director Imholt is here and Nathan Ricks is here. So I think we should get that whole team up and then Shannon will be here to walk us through it. Some introductions.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chair Revolve, members of the commission. My name is Nathan Ricks, Deputy Director of Strategy and Policy with the OLCC.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Blase. I'm the Rules Coordinator for the OLCC.
And good morning, it's Betsy Imholt, Director of the Oregon Department of Revenue. Happy to be here.
Great.
You know, I wanted to, I know we're gonna dig into the details, but I wanted to thank Director Imholt being here. I don't know how we wanted to start, but I just want to thank you, Betsy, for being here and maybe before we get into the details, let the director just kind of start with an overview of where we are and kind of where this rule fits, if that's okay. Is that good?
Happy to do that.
Maybe that's good. Let's start it that way and then we'll dig into it as we go.
Sounds great. Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, as I said, my name is Betsy Imholt, Director of the Oregon Department of Revenue, and it is a pleasure to be with you today. And it's also been a pleasure really furthering our partnership with the OLCC. We've been partners for a long time, especially around the marijuana licensing program or marijuana retail programs, and just happy to be continuing that work with you today. I do have a few remarks I'd just like to share at the beginning. You know, agencies like ours, both the OLCC and the Department of Revenue, you know, we share in a responsibility to both educate and also to enforce, you know, as necessary. And our goal is always earlier in the process that we can help people be in compliance with the myriad of laws that we're responsible for enforcing. And on our side, obviously, that's mostly in the areas of taxation. And our goal and our vision as a department is to create a clear and easy experience for our customers. And one of those ways is to make sure that people know what they're responsible for doing and making it as easy as possible for them to follow the rules. The issue that's before you today is timely, and it is it's in alignment with really that vision that we have. And that is to really interact with taxpayers as soon as possible in the process to make sure that they're really off on the right footing. No one wants Oregon taxpayers to be in that what really can be a downward spiral of, you know, getting behind and then trying to catch up with all the other competing demands that they have in their business life. So if we can get to folks earlier, that's always preferred. I want to assure you, as you take up this issue before you today, that the very specific proposal around requiring tax compliance before you get a license or at the time of renewal is not new, and it is not limited to just this proposal before you today. We do this already in a myriad of industries, including BOLI labor contractors specifically, lottery contractors, DHS child caring agencies, ODOT's Connect Oregon grant recipients have to prove they're in tax compliance, and then the Department of Public Safety and Security, their private security licensees have to demonstrate tax compliance before receiving a license. it's smart to do it this way, because to do it on the front end, it saves taxpayers headache, and it also saves us of a lot of compliance related work. So we just think it's a smart move, and it's one that will be growing too. So this is before you today, and we also really want to expand this approach to really as many places as we can. So it won't be the end of this, but it is an important step along the journey. The actual mechanics of getting, showing that you're in tax compliance is very simple. On our website right now, any of you could request a certificate of tax compliance, and it's going to show up in the mail a week later. It's very simple process that currently exists. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks and let you take it from here. Thank you.
Question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just for those listening, what is your definition of tax compliance?
Thank you. That is laid out in our rules, but it's basically that the taxpayer is paid up in full with all of the programs that they are required to comply with, or in an active appeal that counts as tax compliance. That is their right to do so, and so we don't hold that against anybody. Same with they are in an active payment plan. They're in a payment plan with us, they're in compliance. Thank you.
Are we gonna go and adjourn and discuss this? No. Okay. Sure.
Yes.
So when they're out of compliance, they're given an opportunity to get into compliance. What happens after that if they don't get into compliance?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Doherty, I think there's a whole bunch of tools that we have at our disposal that we employ. Obviously, like I've said, we request that people get in compliance with all the tools that are available to the taxpayer, and that includes a payment plan. If that for some reason doesn't happen, then we have, several collections tools, including, garnishment, seizure of assets, the things that, and actually suspending licenses. We can do that now. We have done that now. We've worked with OLCC and suspended licenses in the past. Those are tools of last resort, and we really try to get folks in compliance on that front end process.
So if they're out of compliance in their business, would this spill over to their personal taxes?
So I believe that this is defined through your process, but it's related to ownership. So whoever's name, please correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like we're a step maybe ahead of your presentation, but when someone applies for an application, for a license, wherever that is, those names that you require on your side of the process is what we check. So for someone to apply, they're going to have to meet your criteria, and you will say, who the compliance check needs to be proven for, and then they will self-apply and get their letters and submit it through your process.
Okay. Are you going to go into some more depth on this? Yeah, I didn't mean to get ahead of
Chair Revolt, members of the commission, I can provide a little more context, just in general about the rule, the why behind it, and then also how it will work on our end. That would be helpful.
Yes.
So, as you all know, we've been working on this for about a month when Governor Kotek requested that we work closely with Department of Revenue to ensure tax compliance for marijuana retail licensees. Just to give you a little sense about why the policy now, and we have some data that's been shared to us by Department of Revenue that cannabis retailers have a higher rate of delinquency than other businesses that have this requirement. We're at about 9% versus about 3% for other industries. So it is an issue we want to address directly. As far as who this impacts, at this point in time, the temporal before you really focuses on retail licensees. And I know there's some interest in expanding beyond that. And in our permanent rulemaking process, we will deliberate on that, contemplate if it should expand beyond retailers. So you can look for that to come down the road here. Specifically right now, we've worked with Department of Revenue on just about a dozen different retailers that we've had to suspend over the past few months for not being up to date on their tax payments. And I think we have, at least as of last week, 18 licensees that are currently on a payment plan. So our goal, for our program measurement and to show that we're doing a good job with this rule change is we want to see the filing rates go up and the delinquency rate go down. So a year from now, we've got our baseline, there have been 12 retailers that have had issues to the point of suspension, 18 that are on payment plans. We want to see more get on those payment plans. And then the overall number of folks that are struggling, we want to decrease that, and we want to see more filing quarterly. So beyond that, like Director Umholtz said, it's a very straightforward policy as far as how it will work for licensees. We have now on our website live a section on marijuana.oregon.gov that folks that are listening in can click on. They can see a list of questions that we've collected from industry partners, from city government, local officials, and with Department of Revenue about what it will look like to go through this process. It's automated. There's a form online that all licensees can apply for, and they can do that starting immediately. If you do pass this rule, or all change of ownerships beginning tomorrow, every person that's added onto a business or every business that's added onto a license, those will all have to have the certification of compliance. So that's ready as of now for folks to get started if they wanted to make that change tomorrow. And then for licenses that expire, we have a 90-day period for renewals. And so 90 days from tomorrow is September 15th. And on that date and every day forward, all retailers that are renewing will have to have a certificate of tax compliance. So we've already started our communication efforts. We've been sending out letters for delinquent taxpayers with our compliance division. I mentioned our website. We have our FAQs for folks that have questions. We'll be adding to that, similar as we did during COVID when we were making a lot of adjustments for the hospitality industry. Third, we will have in our Canvas tracking system, which every licensee has to log into to update their inventory daily. There'll be a pop-up that says, attention, this requirement goes into effect immediately. Read more about it by going here. And then we're also sending out email notifications and Gov delivery messages, which is really our primary way of communicating to our marijuana licensees. So our theme here is there's no wrong channel, to get information about this. We want to make sure there aren't any surprises, and we do, really wish the best for our industry as we give them supports to come into tax compliance.
Cool. Want to add anything? Want to add anything? Go ahead.
No, I'm happy to give another overview. Again, Nicole Blase, I'm the rules coordinator for the OLCC. Chair of all and commissioners, we are here to present this one rulemaking action for your consideration today to amend 6 existing rules for temporary and initial action for the marijuana retailer tax compliance. Would you like another overview, or are you ready for a vote?
Not yet.
Okay.
First, go ahead.
Yes, I want to get a little bit back to this tax issue where you've got, say somebody who's got 5 or 6 investors and they're running this operation and they're looking for be certified that they're, and one of their members has an argument with the taxes and is in dispute. And is this a tool that we could use to solve that personal dispute and getting this license?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Doherty, I believe it is. I think if it's an active dispute, we would consider that to be in compliance if they're an appeal, right? That's the forum for an active dispute. If they were not, communicating with us and they had an active dispute that we weren't aware of, then and there's been no established, path forward with that taxpayer, then they would not be in compliance.
Yeah, that gets a little troublesome for me for digging into their forcing an issue over here on a personal issue that they may have legitimate dispute about their taxes, and then we're using this as a weapon to get them to comply on their personal side. Is that?
My understanding is that if, as long as they're in discussion, they're not forcing it.
Okay.
When they're in discussion, if they're not in discussion, then they're not in compliance.
Right, and
okay.
And I want to be really like transparent with you. If in discussion means that we're trading voicemails, I don't think that we would consider that to be in compliance after a certain amount of time. They would actually need to take an action to be working with us. So, but it does bleed over. And I think, one of the things that's really important to know is, many businesses file tax returns under their own personal name. So it's really hard to like separate this out and separate a business from a person, because at the end of the day, many of them are interrelated.
And is there public access to all this that's going on and who's in compliance and who's out of compliance? Is this?
Mr. Chair, no, that's all very, we can't disclose any of that unless, the taxpayer agrees for us to disclose it, with one exception that's going to be new starting in July. We are really for the first time going to be posting on our website delinquent accounts that are over $50,000 in total. So that part will start to become public in July on an ongoing basis. And this is going to be a few thousand taxpayers. And right now they're under notification that their name's going to be posted if they remain out of compliance. So that's all happening. And that's very new for us. So I think that's the one exception, is that list.
Shame them into compliance, is this?
What was that?
Shame them into compliance?
Well, I think, many states do this, and the legislature passed this law before COVID. So we've put it on hold until now. And
yeah, I got a problem with that one.
Commissioner Boyd?
Is there any other agency that we're doing that with? Lottery and all the other?
Yes.
Bully?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Floyd, absolutely. And I tried to mention that list in my opening. Lottery contractors, bully labor contractors, DHS child caring agencies. These are all folks that we already do this process for.
No, the shaming part, right?
Oh, that will be applied to just anyone in our system who owes $50,000 or more in back taxes.
Not just our marijuana.
Right.
No, everybody,
It's not designed
everybody.
for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
no.
That's, yeah, okay.
Commissioner?
The point of tax collection for cannabis is at the retail level, so that's why we're focusing on them first, correct? I'm just wondering, because we're not doing the whole industry, because that was a question that got asked, why aren't we doing it for everybody out the gate? But that's essentially what.
Yeah, I can take a crack at that one and I've got the experts. I think Mr. Ricks pointed out the non-compliance rate. And then as Director Imwald said, this is an iterative process. This is not just the cannabis industry. This is larger. We wanted to start where we had non-compliance. We have the point of sale tax. We know that's important. And then we wanted to start where we could actually operationalize this as a staff, where we want to make sure we start small and we have, I don't know how many, say September 15th, how many people would be putting in for renewals? Maybe it's between 40 and 60. We want to make sure we can do it. So we thought that was a good place to start. It's obviously not the end of this statewide, but it's kind of a practical thing, and that compliance rate, I think this will be a good place to start to, as Nathan said, to get those numbers moving in the right direction.
I think it's good to explain, because I think this doesn't happen to the same degree on alcohol, because the system is fundamentally different. When you see today, our alcohol retailers have to come in here and essentially apply for an agency. I mean, on the beer and wine side, the wholesaler collects it in tax, does not go unpaid on that side. So I think it's to me, I think there's going to be an evolutionary process in it, but I think there's some significant fundamental differences in the way that cannabis is taxed in the state, and there are some issues around the generalities around it, but I think it's, in terms of parity, it's relatively the same from what I've seen so far. I mean, we're still gonna have to go through, rules advisory and all that stuff, but we got to get, I mean, now that we're all aware of this, I think it's good. We're nipping it in the bud. It's work.
Nip it in the bud. That was.
I thought it, but didn't say.
Commissioner?
Are you able to project how much revenue Oregon will realize from this?
I don't know. We maybe could, but I don't have that fingertips today.
Curious.
I think it's also important that everyone who's listening understand that this is an ongoing process. And that it is not, it will simply not stop at the retail level. And that is important that if you're in the business in our sphere, that you need to pay your taxes. And so it may start at retail. I guess this is a heads up to everyone else in the industry that you will be affected by this at some point. As soon as I'd like, but as soon as what I've been told that we can do effectively. So it's going to happen. So be aware. Commissioners? Okay, would you like some action?
Yes, I would. Yes, and I will point out, this is, the temporary language is specific towards retailers, but as we open up the process into permanent rulemaking and have our rules advisory committees and public hearings on this, that could change before it becomes permanent, but I will read what we have today for you. Per Governor Kotek's directive, as of May 16th, 2023, the OLCC and Department of Revenue have been directed to immediately take steps to require proof of tax compliance for marijuana retailers as part of the renewal, change of ownership, addition of license holders, and or the new licensure process. Requiring proof of tax compliance before such licensing actions may be approved will ensure only those up to date on tax obligations or making timely payments under a Department of Revenue approved payment plan will be permitted to operate in the cannabis industry. Unless you have any other questions, I can take a motion.
Chair,
Yes.
I do want to make a comment here, though. When I initially heard about this, my thought went to what Chair has been stating since day one, since I've been on this commission, which is that we want good business people and good partners. So when I saw this initially, my thought was, well, this is good because we want people who are following the law, doing the right thing, and being good citizens. And so I'm hoping that this will go to corporate compliance. I do recognize that there is the ability for abuse with something like this, where we can get overkill. And I'm hoping that right now we're addressing a problem that we can easily identify, and that this is going to be a step in the right direction towards bringing people into compliance. And we do need to do that. And I agree with what Commissioner Melita said, that sometimes the marijuana industry, it's continuously been in evolution. And so we're hoping that this is going to be a step in the right direction. So is there any other comments? I move to temporarily amend OAR 845-025-1015, 1030, 1132, 1165, 1170, and 1190, effective June 16th, 2023 to December 13th, 2023, to initiate rulemaking on this action and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner DePonte Porter, Commissioner Molina,
Yes.
Chair Rivera.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Brian, are we live?
Mhm.
We're great. Let's go back.
Okay. All commissioners, Director Prinz, again for the record, Brian Aker with Retail Services. And it looks like we may have Rick on the line. Yes, there he is.
I am.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, Commissioner Rosewell and all the commission members. My name is Amrik Bakri, and I've been in the retail business for 20 years. I have been doing convenience stores for last 20 years, and when the retail expansion happened 5 years ago for Southern Oregon, I applied for our Ashland store, and I got chosen to be one of the liquor operator in Ashland, and I've been running that store for the last 5 years. And seen a lot of growth in that store. In last 5 years, we brought that store to like we're doing almost 1.8 million in that store. And now when the opportunity came in for Jacksonville for 1080 store, and I saw that store was on sale, went and talked to Paul Murdoch. He was the previous operator for that store, and went talked to him, and we talked, and he was interested in selling. So we kind of made the deal there, talked to his real estate person next day, and then and then took over that store. And I have bought that store on November 15th, and we've been making some changes in that store since then. It used to be like he ran the Gary West jerky down there. I don't know, some of you are probably familiar with that. He was shipping the jerky all over the place, and with the COVID, when COVID hit, he stopped doing the jerky, and then it was just a liquor store there. And I bought it from him, and my plan is to turn that into upscale convenience store with the deli and liquor store in it. And we got all the approvals from the city, changed the zoning on the building from manufacturing to retail. And we're in the process of rebuilding it. We demoed the whole place, and we're quadrupling the space for the liquor from 500 square feet to 2,000. And it's going to be big, like 7,000 square feet convenience store with the full deli and groceries and liquor in it, kind of like what Gurpreet from the Toledo store, like showing you guys in the pictures. It's going to be like that. And we're starting to rebuild it now. So we should be up and running in that place in about 2.5 months. I temporarily moved the store to one corner of the building where they used to have storage. And since we started doing it, we added some more beers and a little bit of groceries, and increased the hours. They used to only open 10 to 6 and close on Sundays. We're open from 9 to 9, so more convenience for customers. That way they don't have to go to Medford to buy liquor right now, and also open on Sundays. And once we move into the other side, our store hours will be like from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So we'll be open all hours for liquor. It'll make it easier for the community down there, not just only for Jacksonville, but the surrounding areas too, like Rouge, because there's no liquor store in Rouge. And we're saw increase about 10% right now as like end of May compared to last year numbers, even with operating from a smaller area right now.
Commissioners, questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
I move to appoint Karan Properties LLC as the permanent agent at store 1080 Jacksonville, effective July 1st, 2023.
Laura.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Javon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas,
Yes.
Chair Laval.
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry about the mishap earlier. I was trying, and for some reason, my mic and camera were not working.
That's okay. We're used to it happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about compliance with alcohol settlement.
Good morning, members of the commission, Chair Hall. For the record, my name is Elijah Nadell, and I am a case presenter with the Administrative Hearings Division. I'm presenting 4 alcohol settlements, marijuana settlements as well, for your ratification. I'm available for any questions.
We'll take alcohol first.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for coming up and spending your time here. I appreciate it. On the service permit, who's responsible for maintaining the service permit? The owner of the store or the employee getting their own service? How does this come about that we see this frequently?
Well, the server is responsible for getting a permit. The licensee is responsible for making sure their servers have permits.
Okay, and how difficult a process is that for that person to get that permit? Is it easy or?
There is an application. There is as well a server's education class and a test to take. Some score would be a 70%.
Okay.
Its difficulty is a C.
Okay, okay. Do they expire or is this what's?
They serve for a period of 5 years.
Okay, I'm just trying to see what the whole, it just keeps coming up and I don't know why they would let them lapse or why they don't have a permit.
There could be numerous reasons as to why they have. And there's also a period where they could be in the application process and not finish.
Yes.
So I have a question, Chair.
Yes.
Mine. My question was on with these, and it looks like it's regarding, I think, number 1 and number 2. Number 3, I think it dealt specifically with the licensee. But number 1 and number 2, the Bangers and Brews, Hayden Bridge Deli, were these permittees, were their service permits expired or had they not, been serving alcohol all this time without having any basis whatsoever?
I believe in both instances that they were no service permits and not a matter of expired.
Well, see, that's the concern that I have because that's how it reads. And for me, that's completely 2 different things, right? If you've been driving for 5 years without a driver's license, or do you have some basis, some knowledge, and it just, your driver's license expired. That's important for me to know how we're reading this. It just looks like these permittees have never had a service permit before.
Never had training or.
Yeah, I'm not, upon an initial blush of the facts in Bangers and Brews, I'm not seeing that there was an expired. It was that they did not have a service permit, the server themselves.
Okay, moving forward, I'd just like to go on record to say, because I've asked this question before, but I think it's really important to know. I'd like for this to be more clear. So you can explain this in the notes, you can explain it in the synopsis, but I think it's really important for us to know whether or not these permittees, if it's an expired permit.
Okay.
Okay, explain that a little bit more. And then second question is, have these permittees, were they cited, were they fined as well?
For
not having a valid service permit.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. Melanie Musial, PG Director. So we can't, if they don't have a service permit, we can't do a fine against them because they don't have a permit.
Okay, what about when they stay in the industry and then they need to, they need to be issued a service permit? We don't have any footing on previous infractions, so now
No, there's nothing, because we can only, institute violations or take actions when somebody has a license or has a permit against us. So, and we don't currently, as far as I'm aware, there's no way to retroactively go back and say, well, this person was working with a permit and now they got one, so we're going to do something there. So we don't address that. We can only address in terms of violations with somebody who has a permit with us or has a license with us.
So then the onus is on the owner.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's always on the owner, but as I've always been saying, until we bring the permittee's feet to the fire here, we're going to keep seeing these over and over and over. That's really important. It is on the licensees. It's on their watch. It's very important that they know and who they're sometimes, you know, things happen where you got a permittee and all of a sudden, their license, or excuse me, their service permit expires. And they know that, they should be aware of that. It's their license. They should be aware of that, and they should have some accountability. But.
And we
okay.
do take actions, and just so you're aware, you know, in terms of like minor decoy operations, if a service permittee has a permit and they serve, you know, they end up serving to a minor, they get a violation on their permit as well as the licensee, right? But in these situations, we just cannot, there's no operation by which we can take any violation against someone who doesn't have a permit.
So if they do have a permit and it's a permittee situation, that the minor decoy, I'm trying to think
Yes.
if there's another.
That's the one that came off the top of
It's
my head. We
always-
can
yeah.
take actions against the permittee as well.
Yeah. It's like $250 or something, whatever, to $200.
Or suspension.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay.
Commissioners?
I'll just say, in the instance in Bangers and Brews as well, it's serving a minor decoy without a permit is a criminal violation as well, that law enforcement could be involved.
To the licensee though, right? Or is it also to the.
To the non-permittee for serving a minor,
Okay.
it is
okay.
a criminal. So there can be, but that is not within the purview of the LCC.
Yeah, okay.
Very good point. I think it keeps coming up in cameras, right? It's like, we talked about it a bunch of times, and I just think that it's like, we can hold the licensee accountable, but maybe rules can look at the rules and see what we can do, because it happens on the cannabis side, it happens on the alcohol side, where you get frontline employees that are putting an entire business at jeopardy because of their bad behavior. And it's a tough one. I mean, and I didn't, we've gone years at seeing these things where the actions of one person that may have gone rogue is essentially putting the licensee at peril. And I don't know that that's, I mean, I guess there's certain things that, like, if this person never had a permit and the licensee never checked that, then maybe that's bad. But if they did and it expired and was the responsibility of the permittee to redo it, it's kind of a tough one to, I don't know. I mean, because we've seen this for years now, and it's really, I think there is a lot of heartache around holding an entire business hostage because one, and I get that that's our rules, but maybe we need to look at our rules. So, and maybe it's a law thing too, but you know, I think we need to take that into consideration. So
Will this require a legislative change? Or is this a rulemaking change that we could do?
I mean, I guess it depends on what exactly you're asking about, right? So, you know what, because the idea is we cannot go, if someone doesn't have a permit with us, we can't do anything against that person, right? So
Right.
that is not something I don't, you know.
we could issue maybe like when they if they want to redo their permit, we could issue them a fine upon renewal. Couldn't we do something like that? Or I mean, I don't know. It's just a tough one because, yeah, I think what I would just instruct staff is like, maybe instead of just saying we can't do it, look at what we can do and come back to us with what we can do to sort of address this issue of permittees putting an entire license at jeopardy. That would be my thought, because and I know you guys are newer, but we've talked about this for a lot of years now. And so I think it's, that'd be my thought, is instead of just sort of, oh, we can't do it because of this, like, let's look at what we can do, because this is clearly an issue. So, I mean, it's where I'm.
I agree. We need some ideas from you. Great. On how to deal with this, because it's a long time.
Yeah, I think it's something we can talk, Melanie and Rich, I can talk with Stacy. Shani, you get off easy this time, you know, because it's in the alcohol world.
I have some thoughts.
Okay.
Because it does involve worker permits as well.
Yeah. So hi, Shannon O'Fallon, Oregon Department of Justice, and I generally advise the commission on the cannabis side of the house. But I also do work for the Oregon Health Authority, and there are statutes. I mean, it probably would require a statutory change, but there are statutes that allow agencies to issue civil penalties to entities that are sort of holding themselves out or acting in a capacity when they are required to get a certificate of license. So I think, something like that, would be within the realm of possibility and exists elsewhere in the statute.
We just need some guidance because we have a situation, because they've never had a permit. They go to work for somebody, they don't care.
Yeah.
And the restaurant or the bar takes the hit.
Yep.
And so we need to know, can we change this so that's not the case? Is it legislative that we need to take a change? Is it a rulemaking we can make a change? But this has been going on a while, and we need something more than the licensee taking a hit. And if that's the way it's going to be, then let's revisit it.
Yeah.
Here's also another, because we've got another infraction where you've got Milltown Pub, correct? And you've got a permittee who admits to self-serving and drinking while on the job. That's enough. He's like perfect case in point. Did this person get cited? Did this permittee get cited?
I'm not aware of that.
Because this is a category 3 violation that's going to be on this licensee's record, compliance record.
Well, we generally do have a rule that is the licensee is responsible for every act and omission, all their employees and their representatives as well too.
100%, and I get that. Like I said, they're on, that's on their watch. But until the permittee feels a little something, until that permittee feels, there's either a citation, fine, but until they are held monetarily, I guess, responsible, we're gonna see this. So can you tell me?
I can say yes, a notice was issued against the server in that instance for Milltown.
A notice or a fine?
Well, it would be the notice. I don't believe it's resolved yet. It would have been issued at the same time that this has come before the commission as a settlement. I don't have the full information in front of me as to where it is within the system. The notice of proposed service permit suspension or civil penalty went out the door. Its resolution, I believe, has not happened yet.
Okay, all right.
Craig, I'm going to put this on hold until we get more information on this whole issue.
Sure.
So how would you like me to phrase that, Laura, or? We need more information on these cases. We don't
What
have
information would you require, Chair?
better answers to the questions we're asking.
Yeah, I think, and I think what we can look at is, I think there's a criminal citation we can look at that I don't know. I have to get my criminal law brain back on. And then there's our licensees, and I think what the commission's asking for, what are the possibilities in between, right? So I want to just flesh that out so we have a good answer when we come back.
Yeah, and it's just the rogue act of these permittees. Sorry, Commissioner Kern, not to cut you off, but it's just, doing something where they're held accountable will, I think, greatly impact how often we're seeing these. And I'm sure there's a lot of these that we're not even seeing, right? That you guys are just, resolving without them coming before us.
Well, yeah, if they default, right, if they do not request a settlement, if they just don't respond to our notice, then that just goes, they will pay the full penalty or serve the full.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I just.
Go ahead. Commissioner?
I would be comfortable approving these settlement agreements today and still taking up this action later.
Yeah.
If there's support for that, because I do think that there is a lot of when people are coming to us and saying we have a settlement agreement, and I recognize on one side of, that they can be forced into that to try and avoid legal fees, but if they are coming before us voluntarily and saying they have an agreement, I would be okay with voting on them today. And I would be willing to make that motion. I just don't know if there's support for that, but at the same time, taking up these issues, if we could do that more as like a committee or something down the road.
Please do.
There's one, and, just, you guys are the hearings division, so maybe what you're hearing too is that the discretion, like, we get that there are things and rules, and there were things in practice that were just done that way for years. And I think what we're seeing with a lot of this stuff is that, sometimes when we push back, we'll get, oh, well, we can't do this, or, oh, it's just this way. And I think what you're hearing is like, that's maybe, we're in a different world now. So I think that, yeah, like looking at it to where if it was the act of just a rogue employee, like, I don't think it's fair that the entire business was jeopardy or given a cat violation like that. So, maybe, until we get this changed, hearings can look at, just being a little bit more, I don't know, discretionary with those. So just a thought. I mean, you guys are doing great. I know it's a newer thing, but I just wanted to reiterate.
Commissioners?
I'm comfortable with that. We can continue on the motion. I just, I've been saying this for few years now about the permittees being held a little bit more monetarily responsible and it not just all landing on the licensee. And until that happens, we're gonna keep seeing this over and over and over.
I don't know if it's possible, because I'm just throwing this out there, but a way for the employer to get reimbursed from the employee if there was a function in which if the business gets fined, but there is a way for them to file a small claim or if there was an avenue for which they could collect and then garnish wages or something like that for their responsibility. And I don't know how that would actually work out. But I think that there are some ways so that they could share some of that or know that they were liable. But I agree that I think it's definitely an issue. It's one of those difficult situations. I mean, years ago, we saw a lot of surveillance camera violations. And we kept saying, we're giving high category violations to people who were not really, things were out of their control. And so I think that that's what the communication here is, things that may be out of an owner's control. If they ask for server's permits, and they're looking at it and somebody gives them a server's permit, but it's fake, or something like that. Those are the kind of discretionary items that I think we're trying to lean on here is put the right person responsible if we can. So, I would move to ratify the 4 alcohol stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas,
Yes.
Chair Raval.
No. Okay. Marijuana.
Again, I have 2 marijuana settlements presented to the commission for your ratification.
Questions? Can I have a motion, please?
Chair,
Yes.
I move to ratify the 2 marijuana stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas,
Yes.
Chair Raval.
Yes. Go ahead.
Chair, can I ask a question here? One thing on can the marijuana people use the same age verification question that we do in alcohol for alcohol? Is that,
They can use the same one.
I don't know if it's the same or not.
well, some sort of age verification equipment. I know we've got some stipulations on here. You must have this age verification equipment as part of the settlement. And then you got to do it by July 1st. I don't know how big a process that is or how expensive this equipment is. So it's hard for me to make a judgment. Do you have that
There's
information?
no specific age verification equipment that is required. There are specifications that age verification equipment must meet in order to be meeting the requirements that we're setting out, and those standards are set out by rule.
I don't know how big a burden that is. I don't know if they have $25 piece of equipment or if it's thousands of dollars.
It's like 800. It's not, there is a piece of
Significant.
equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there are multiple
Yeah.
manufacturers.
So it's $800 and is it installed or is it easy to use or?
It's pretty easy.
Okay, all right. That's my questions. Thank you very much.
Just a little bit of an investment.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Director, any comments?
I was gonna see if we could take a recess real quick before we adjourn. Is that possible? Or do you want to just?
We'll take a 10-minute recess.
Thank you.
Great. We are back in session and as before,
Thank you.
Mr. Director.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, and I wanted to ask Laura Gomez to come on up. Laura's got a good but bittersweet announcement that we all wanted her to have an opportunity to make for y'all. So Laura.
So for the record, I'm Laura Gomez, the HR director. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for all of your support and partnership. I actually have another opportunity to continue within the enterprise, I can say, as an HR director, but with Parks and Rec. And so I will be starting that new position in early July. And I just wanted to thank you again for this wonderful opportunity. I've been here for almost 5 years. And without getting all teary-eyed, I've watched a lot of resilient, hard workers stand firm and come through and represent this agency. And I've been very proud of this opportunity to be here and to watch it double in size and to leave behind a very well-established, committed commission, agency staff, and HR team, and other leaders. So thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you very much. We will miss you.
Yes.
We will try to find you. Commissioners?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Been through a lot. Thank you for getting us through it on the HR side.
Pandemic and everything.
Yeah.
Don't get that. Nobody gets enough credit here. So thank you.
And likewise to all of you as well.
Positive energy.
Yeah.
Well,
I
thank
mean,
you. Thank you.
Laura, I just want to let the commissioners say thank you.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you. And specifically, it's Pride Month. It's Juneteenth on Monday.
Yeah.
And I want to just thank you for being a champion for diversity, equity, inclusion.
Absolutely.
I know that's a passion, that's a heart for you. Making this OLCC a workplace that's safe and welcoming for everyone. And we're gonna miss you. And I'm so thankful for the commitment you've had, how you supported me coming in 4 months ago in the middle of a lot of difficulty. And you mentioned resilience, that this is a resilient staff. That's not a coincidence that Laura Gomez, you've just shown so much resilience. You've stayed true to who you are. You've reached into your values as you move forward with this agency. We wish you the best of this new opportunity.
Thank you.
You have to let folks know what the first orientation when you work at Parks and Recreation looks like. But I just wanted to maybe online, and here we can just give Laura a hand. Yeah.
Couldn't have been here without your support, so I appreciate it.
So you got to tell the commission and the folks online what the orientation
The
process looks at Parks and Rec.
It looks like I need to learn all about the parks here in the state of Oregon, the wonderful state of Oregon. And for the first 8 weeks, I will be touring and learning more about each district. It's a big road trip, so.
I'll be there.
Some pointers, yeah. So it will be a journey, no pun intended, for sure.
And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much.